Hey everyone, how's it going? Forrest here again with another installment of my complete analysis of all 389 Bach chorale harmonizations. Today we're going to be looking at Nun bitten wir den heiligen Geist, which translates to We now beg the Holy Spirit. This is a pretty interesting chorale. It stays in A major or like the realm of three sharps, A major, F sharp minor for the entirety of it. There are some debatable chord changes, and there's kind of an interesting cadence. There's actually two interesting cadences in the second system, which we'll take a look at once we get there. But that being said, let's just hop right into the analysis, right? So we're in the key of A major, so we'll go ahead and mark that here. We start on a one chord, right? Just a root position, A major triad. And then we immediately go to G sharp, B, E, and B. That is an E major triad in first inversion. We have some passing tones in the lower voices. And then we have E, G sharp, E, and B. So the 5 chord just inverts to root position, passing 7th in the bass. And then we have C sharp, A, E, and A. That is an A major triad in first inversion. And then we go to D, A, D, and F sharp. That is a root position D major triad or a 4 chord with a passing 7th in the alto. And then we go to D, G sharp, B, and E. It's a pretty snazzy progression here. We suspend the 7th of the chord in the bass, turning it into an E7 chord over D, so 5-4-2, E7 in third inversion. And then we have C sharp, A, C sharp, and F sharp. So it's going to a 6-4 chord actually. This is interesting. Let's see how it's used. It's part of a passing tone figure, so this would be a passing 6th, or passing 6-4. Bach's been, the 6-4 chords have pretty much been dialed like you see them used in the context you would find in the textbook. That being said though, we have a kind of a passing chord here. I'm not going to mark it because they don't really have a lot of space, but B, B, D, and G sharp. There's kind of like a passing 7 chord there, which would make more sense of the progression because we're going to a 1-6 chord next, right? It's just an A major triad over C sharp on the next beat, and then the chord reinverts here. We'll just put 5-3 in parentheses, and then we go to E major in root position, E, G sharp, E, and B with that 4-3 suspension over the bass, so just a 5 chord, and then we get a perfect authentic cadence on 1. Just an A major triad. Straightforward, but yeah, in here in this parentheses is kind of a passing 6. We have 4, 5, 6, 7 going on. Yeah, maybe I will try and fit it in there just a little bit. I know it's kind of hard to see, but I'll fit it a little bit in parentheses there. I need to sharpen my pencil at some point. So then we have another A major triad. We know Bach likes to respell the same chord by rotating the voices and leaping the bass up an octave. That's something that he does a lot. Passing tone in the soprano, and then we get another E major chord over G sharp, so 5-6, G sharp, E, B, and E. Then we go to D, A, D, and F sharp. We also have a passing tone in the alto here. Just a root position 4 chord. Sorry, not root position, first inversion. So 5-6 going to 4-6. It's kind of like a deceptive progression, right? Because 4-6 is an F sharp in the bass, but instead of F sharp, A, C sharp, it's F sharp, A, D. So they're very similar to one another in that same way. G sharp, B, B, and E. Another 5-6 chord. E major over G sharp. I have a passing tone in the alto in the previous beat as well. Then we have A, C sharp, A, and C sharp, kind of an interesting spelling, but that is a root position 1 chord. Makes me wonder if I have a typo, but that's okay. The chord still spells out the same, passing tone in the tenor as well. We have C sharp, E, A, and A. That is still A major, but this time it's in first inversion, so we'll change the figured bass. Then we have D, A, D, and F sharp. That is another D major triad. We see a lot more 4 chords than Bach usually uses in his texture. We don't, or in his like harmonic language. We don't see usually this many 4 chords in close proximity to one another, so that's kind of interesting. We have some passing tones in the outer voices, and then we have F sharp, A, C sharp, and A. That is an F sharp minor triad in root position, so just a 6 chord. And then it turns into 6 right here as the bass leaps up or skips up a third. And then we have D, A, F sharp, and B. So here we see not a 4 chord, but that B turns it into a 2 chord. It is a 7th chord and it's in first inversion, so 2, 6, 5. And then on this, this is a perfect authentic cadence, no question about it. But the harmonic rhythm changes here so that we get a 5 chord happening right here on this 4 and right here to make the cadence sound complete. Bach does that from time to time with his cadences and his chorales, especially. We've seen this before where the 5 gets introduced on the and of the beat. Otherwise, if we analyzed with a consistent harmonic rhythm, right, if we're just analyzing the numbered beats, we'd miss that 5 and it would just look like 2 to 1. But the 5 is in there. All right, so now we're moving ahead. The next cadence we get is in the key of F sharp minor, so we do get a modulation, but notice how A is in the melody. Like if you listen to melody by itself, it never modulates, but when you look at how Bach contextualizes it, sometimes the music modulates. He's able to experiment with different keys, and usually when we see imperfect authentic cadences, I think it's my hypothesis is that it's a byproduct of him spinning the harmonic agenda, right? It's like it starts off usually being in a particular key. The melody implies a particular key, and if you're writing music for a congregation, it's usually not going to modulate, I would say. So it takes Bach's compositional faculties to recontextualize the melody in a new key without changing it. So if he changed the melody, the cadential structure might lend itself a little bit more definitively, but we get imperfect authentic cadences in different keys as a byproduct of the melody still staying in one key and the harmony reflecting a new key. And this new key happens to be F sharp, so we're not like going very far away or anything. We're actually just sharing the same key signature. So we'll just say, just for the sake of analysis, or just for the sake of getting something down, that we modulate to F sharp major on this A major chord, same way that he leapt up an octave and rotated the voices. Actually, it's the exact same spelling as right afterwards. So we'll just say that we go from 1 to 3 here with a passing 7th in the bass. Then we get F sharp, G sharp. That's already that's already suspicious right there. F sharp, G sharp, B, and C sharp. I think actually it's this F sharp is a accented non-chord tone. We get E sharp, G sharp, B, and C sharp. That is a C sharp 7 chord over E sharp. So it would be a 5, 6, 5. Good. Then we have F sharp, A, and C sharp, just a root position 1 as we would expect. The E gets naturalized as it's descending. We often see that with melodic minors, that when it goes down, it keeps the diatonic, like the natural structure, and when it goes up, it has the raised structure. That's not always true. I haven't found that it was as true as they made it out to sound in theory classes, but it is definitely something that you see, so it's good to be wary about. D, F sharp, A, and B, another 2, 6, 5 chord, right? This time or actually, my apologies, this is no longer a 2, 6, 5. This would be, if we have B, D, F sharp, and B, D, and it's 2 F sharps. This is actually just a 4-6 chord. It's just B minor, and that is the subdominant in the key of F sharp minor. My apologies. Passing tone in the tenor as well. And then we have C sharp, A, F sharp, and C. C sharp, A, F sharp, and C. That is a 1-6-4 chord. And then it goes C sharp, G sharp, E sharp, and C. That's a 5 chord. And we use these brackets sometimes to show their relationship to one another, because this is a cadential 6-4, and the chords share a bass. And then we get a cadence on 1. But remember, it's not perfect authentic because the melody does not have the tonic in it. It has, in this case, the mediant. Okay, so now we're getting ready to probably the most interesting cadence in the entire piece. We get one of those Bach cadences where he cadences on 4. So we don't get a modulation to D major here per se. It doesn't sound like we've modulated to G major because we get these cross relations. We get G sharp, G sharp, and then G natural, just right in time for the cadence. So I think this is, I really don't know what to call these cadences. It's like 1 going to 4. 1 is the dominant of 4, but it still sounds like we're in the key of A major. So I don't know if this is an authentic cadence, right, where, you know, D is being treated like the tonic. It doesn't sound like the tonic. Or if it's somewhere between like a half cadence and a deceptive cadence. Well, I really don't know what to call it. I still haven't found anything written down about what these cadences are called. But we definitely do modulate back to the key of A major here. So this F sharp minor chord, where he rotates the voices and respells it after at the beginning of the next phrase, is now 6. And then we get E, E, G sharp, and B. That is a root position E major triad, or a 5 chord, with a passing 7th in the bass. And then we have C sharp, E, G sharp, and B. That is a C sharp minor 7 chord right here, which is kind of strange. It's kind of like a deceptive progression, right? We expect 5 to go to 1, but when it goes to 6 or 3, which are both related to 1 by a third, we're deceived because there's something about the chord that doesn't quite sound like what we expect. But if we treat this C sharp like an accented non-chord tone, actually, we could analyze this as 5-6-4, because it would just be B, E, G sharp, and B, as the chord on the top stays the same. But it depends on how you look at it. Then we get an A major triad, right? A, E, A, and C sharp, so just a root position 1 chord with an F sharp there. I think this F sharp going up to G and then going back to F sharp is to bring attention to D major, which is what we cadence on here. So 1 going to 4 is an interesting cadence. You hear it in Bach's music a lot. Like this, when you hear this cadence, it's like one that is definitely an important part of Bach's language, which kind of surprises me that I never learned about it in theory class or in any of my reading. 1 going to 4. It's almost like a half cadence. I don't know. It's like a half cadence, but without the dominant, it kind of slows the trajectory. It's like it's like an inverse plagal cadence. I don't know. Maybe we could write plagal cadence there too, but then again, it doesn't really have that definitive sound because it's not ending on the tonic. It's ending on the subdominant. So if you have any clarifications on what that cadence might be, please let me know in the comments section. I'm very curious, and where you found the information as well would be really nice. We then have we're going ahead next, and then we have a cadence on E major, and it's unclear to me as to whether or not this is a half cadence or a perfect authentic cadence in the key of C. Again, D sharps are introduced, but they're in such close proximity to the end of the phrase that I don't know. It sounds like a half cadence to me, the same way that this doesn't sound like an authentic cadence to me in the key of D. It still sounds like A major. And I don't know if it's because the melody's playing tricks on me, because the melody is very, very much A major the entire time. but it doesn't sound as much like a modulation as when he went to F sharp, right? So, yes. I'm going to analyze it in the key of A major, and we'll go back and look at it in E major as well. So moving ahead, we go from 4 to a B minor triad, B, D, F sharp, and B. So that's just a root position 2 chord, passing tone in the tenor. And then we have an E major chord, E, B, G sharp, and B. Doubles the 5th, which never ceases to amaze me. That's like very cardinal sin in harmony class. We then have A, C sharp, and C sharp. Or sorry, A, and C sharp. It's like a root position 1 chord. Makes me wonder if there's a typo going on there. But then we get some passing tones in the upper voices, and this is not a passing tone, it's a skip, even though it looks like a passing tone at first glance. We then have B, D sharp, F sharp, and A. That is a 2 chord again, but this time it's a 7th chord. And then we have some passing tones in all of the voices, and that would make this a C, E, E, and G sharp. That would be a 3 chord before going to 4. So we get some parallel harmony going on here, where he's just going up the scale. 1, 2, 3. We'll put 3 there just to illustrate the fact that he's just going up the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we would expect 4 to go to some type of dominant chord usually. Let's see, B, G sharp, D, and B. That is a G sharp diminished triad over B, or in other words, 7-6 in the key of A major. So 4-7, we would expect that to go to 1, C sharp, E, C sharp, and B, but we don't get it. We actually get 7 going to its relative via the cycle of fifths, right? The falling fifths. It goes to 3. Again, we have this deceptive progression where dominant going to 3 or dominant going to 6. We've seen that a couple of times now, like 5 going to 6 here, 5 going to 3 here, 7 going to 3 here. That's an interesting thing to have happen multiple times. And this G actually is a chord tone, so we will not mark it. D sharp, F sharp, and A. That is D sharp diminished in root position. So that would be a 7 chord of 5, because D sharp is the leading tone to E, and E is the 5 of A major. And then here we get E, G sharp, E, and G sharp. Again, with that doubled third spelling, it's interesting. It's another 5 chord. And then that goes to 1. A, C sharp, E, and F sharp. Just kidding, it does not go to 1. We get another deceptive progression. It goes to 6, 6. And then we get B, B, D sharp, and F. That is a 5 chord with a passing 7th in the tenor before we cadence. Sorry, not a 5 chord, a 5 of 5 chord. Before we cadence on 5. Now this all sounds very A major to me, but if we went back a little bit, say, I don't know, say for example we said the modulation happened here, and we were analyzing this in the key of E major, we could say that this C sharp minor 7 chord is 6-7, and then we could say that this 7 chord is just 7, and then we have a 1 going on here before we go to F sharp minor over A, which would be 2-6, 5, because this is just 5 of 5, and then we end on 1. See, in the key of E major, this progression looks a lot more normal to me, but because of the melody doesn't really bring out any explicitly E major qualities. I mean, it does go from 5 to 1, but this sounds like a half cadence to me. It just, when you put it in the grand scheme, or when you factor in everything that's going on at the same time, it just sounds like a half cadence. to me at least. But you could analyze it in the key of E major, and it would sound, the analysis looks a lot better in the key of E major, which makes me wonder, whether my ears are trustworthy. I think they are, though. It just sounds like A major to me. Okay, then we have D, A, D, and F sharp. That is a root position D major triad, so a 4 chord. Then we have C sharp, B, D, and G sharp. The C sharp is a culprit to lead our analysis astray. It's this B we're looking for, B, B, D, and G sharp. Again with another 4, 7, 6 progression like we have here. And then we have C sharp, E, E, and A. That is a 1 chord in first inversion. We then get a root position version of the chord on the and of the beat. Then we get E, E, B, and A, but this A is a 4-3 suspension over the bass. It's just a 5 chord we're looking at with a passing 7th in the, I forgot to mark parentheses around this chord over here. A 5 chord, passing 7th in the alto. I say bass, I meant the alto. And then we end on 1. Perfect authentic cadence in the key of A major. So yeah, definitely when it comes to analysis, I think two things are the two most important things, like at the grand scheme of like the philosophy behind your analysis, is that one is that you're consistent and that your viewpoint doesn't like waver throughout the analysis. Like if you're looking for patterns, don't change your definition halfway through. If your definition changes, go back and change your previous analysis, but don't let it waver. Let it be stable. And even if you're arguing something that isn't the majority opinion, make sure that your analysis reflects the fact that you are in one school of thought and that it is a sound analysis regardless. The other thing is to be aware of other viewpoints. So if you are unsure about how to analyze something, provide the perspective on how one could analyze it, right? So like here, for example, is it a half cadence or is it an authentic cadence? Well, here it is analyzed as a half cadence. Here it is analyzed as an authentic cadence, because I'm genuinely unsure. This is something that's come up in a lot of Bach's music, and there really isn't a consensus. My ears tell me it's a half cadence, but then again, I could be wrong in hearing it incorrectly. I hear things incorrectly all the time, but more times than not, I do hear things correctly, which leads me to analyze it in one way over another. But offering varying viewpoints is a really good practice in analysis. I find the papers that go into detail about what could be happening in the texture are often more interesting than just providing one universal explanation for something going on. But that being said, this is a very quaint chorale. I really enjoyed it's just a very beautiful chorale. It's one of my favorite chorales that we've looked at so far, just to listen to, because of all of the interesting spellings and the seconds that occur between the alto and the soprano. It's a very beautiful chorale, and I'm going to tuck it into my back pocket for listening purposes mainly, because the analysis was a little shaky in some parts. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching the video, and thank you for your continued support of the channel. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's analysis. I hope you are too, and I hope you take care.